Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we start the playoffs here in the Cup Series for the fourth time in our Cup Series career at Darlington for the Southern 500. But first up, we have the Xfinity Series race to take care of. As you see the playoff grid though on your screen for the Cup Series, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, a few drivers on the outside looking in, but only 3 points out coming into this first race of the playoffs. So a lot of room for them to work with here as we come through into this throwback weekend. I do have a brand new modded throwback paint scheme on the car for this episode that I cannot wait for you guys to see here in just a couple of moments now, as we of course have Paul Menard behind the wheel for us on the Xfinity side of things as we were getting ready to go green for the Sport Clips. Help a Hero 200, no throwback for our Xfinity car, but maybe some point next season or something like that I could definitely run that now as we were underway down into turns 1 now, as I will also have not only a special modded paint scheme for this episode here at the Darlington Southern 500, but we will also have a special Easter kind of themed paint scheme coming up in the next race of the playoffs, which that episode should drop on Monday. So a few new schemes that I can't wait for you guys to see, and as well as I am holding that Razor primary paint scheme contest, and I will have the winner come down to a video on YouTube, so you guys will get to determine what paint scheme we run next season for the primary Razor car. So I can't wait for you guys to see what options you have to vote for it now as we come through. Though watching Paul Menard work his way up into second place here early on in this race here, so he would move up to second, clearing the 8 of Landon Castle, but unfortunately that was as far as Paul could get here as he went down into turns 3 on now the final lap. Actually knocks the wall down there as he had already hit the wall a couple times prior to that one, but he comes through out of turns 4, and it would be a second place finish for Paul Menard here in the Sport Clips Help a Hero 200 at Darlington Raceway as Christian Eckes picks up the victory. Still a couple races left in the regular season here for the Xfinity Series, so still time for a driver like Quinn Houff to win his way in. Very surprising to still see him running so well in points, but on the outside of the playoffs just because he is lacking a victory. There you saw right there, P6 in the standings for Houff, and he is outside of the playoffs. Very unfortunate for him. Even if he does miss it, he still had a great season overall. As you see, our modded paint scheme here, Jeff Gordon's 2002, I believe it is, paint scheme on the car with us today, and this scheme was modded and made by High C Creations on Twitter. You can follow him over there. He does a great job. He's made quite a few paint schemes for us now here in the career mode, and every single one he has made has just been beautiful, and this one once again looks incredible here now as we come through into qualifying though with a goal of a 29.3. You see me make a mistake there on the exit of turns 2. We would cross the line with a 29.331 though and still qualify P10 here for the Southern 500 and for the first race of the playoffs here. Now as we look at the rest of the qualifying order, Keselowski on pole, Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman, Cole Custer, Chase Briscoe, your top 5. Joey Logano up in there in P6. This is the number one race I'm worried about passing my rival of Joey Logano because it is so hard to pass here, just how narrow the track is, so he is going to be a big obstacle for us. As you see, Ryan Preece, a playoff contender, as well as Bubba Wallace qualifying the mid-30s here for the Southern 500. Alright boys, we have had a great regular season. I don't see why we can't have a great playoffs. Last season we didn't even win a race in the playoffs. Hopefully we can change that tonight, so let's go have a good one. There you hear myself on the radio here as we're getting ready to go green for the Darlington Raceway Southern 500 now for the first race, like I said, of the playoffs now. As this is an interesting first round of the playoffs. We got Darlington, we have Richmond, and then we have Bristol. So very confident in this round. This is probably the weakest track in the round for myself here, as we always seem to have a little bit of bad luck here. Now Chase Briscoe actually crashed during qualifying, a playoff driver starting at the back of the field here as we get ready for the throwback weekend with our Razor throwback paint scheme on the car. Now as the first race of the playoffs and the throwback Darlington race is underway here now from the Southern 500, right behind that 0-2 McLaren of Eric Jones, sandwiched between the two McLarens. It's his teammate Zane Smith is just behind myself here as we go down through turns 1 as well as turns 2, and the rumors have been that Zane Smith will not be returning to that McLaren car. I can confirm right now, and might as well just do it, Zane Smith will not return to McLaren next season in the career mode, but I'm sure he will still find a ride now nonetheless. But McLaren has decided to look elsewhere. They will be keeping the driver that I just kind of ran into there out of turns 4, Eric Jones. They passed Eric, but they decided to go in a different direction from Zane Smith, and they will continue to try and work on just getting that team to where it needs to be now, as we were already up to P7 to the back of Casey Kane there in that number 82 Red Bull Toyota Camry, and you could see Joey Logano running P5, but you could already tell that Joey Logano was way off the pace here as we went down into turn 3, so that was a bit of a concern of mine, simply because I know we had have the speed to easily drive away from him, but getting past him is going to be the tough thing to do here, and I would have a very tough time with that exact thing. I could not pass Joey Logano within the first handful of laps of this first stage whatsoever here, so I kind of got stuck behind him. Chase Elliott actually dives up my inside now into turns 1 and 2, so we're going to lose the spot to him, and then Denny Hamlin's going to go through, and the 3 of Austin Dillon as well, so all of a sudden we drop down into P9 here, as all of these guys would get past Logano, Harrison Burton. He would go to my outside and pass me, and Joey as well, so all of a sudden we were down in P10, and I still couldn't pass the 22. As you guys know, NASCAR laid down the rules that if myself and Logano run into each other one more time at all this season, we're both suspended for at least one race, and that would just be catastrophic to our playoffs. So I was doing everything I could right here to make sure I don't run into the 22 and just try to time it perfect here. I decided right now, out of turn 2 with a good run, to try and make a pass on that 22 of Joey Logano as we go down into turn 3. Sure enough, we will be able to clear that 22 of Joey into the corner, so it was definitely a challenge. It took us probably from, lap 2 to 3 to all the way to 8 to be able to actually get past that 22, and you can see how much ground we lost because of that. Nearly 2 seconds to the car in front now, as Cole Custer had actually taken over the lead here in the early stages of Stage 1 now, as we were starting to run down, though, the 8th place driver of Denny Hamlin, and we were actually closing in on Denny pretty quick here as the laps were going on. So as we came through now down into turns 1 and 2 on lap 12, we actually come out of the corner up the inside of the 11 of Denny Hamlin now, and you can see just in front of him we got Harrison Burton as well running in that 7th position, who is the only driver that has been able to match me so far this season in terms of wins. We both come into the playoffs with 5 wins apiece, but we came through on lap 13 down into turn 3, making a move up the inside of the 19, and we clear him and move up into P7 as we just continue to move our way forwards. And I was pretty confident in the car at this point here. The car felt pretty good, but right here is the kind of turning moment of this car. It really started or felt like it was starting to free up here now within the final 11 to 12 laps of this first stage, and I had run down my Hendrick Motorsports teammate at Chase Elliott, but you can see I had actually lost ground to him here as the laps were going on. But then the caution comes out for the first time here tonight in the Southern 500 as Cole Custer finds himself out front, and the driver taking over his car next season, Brad Keselowski, is just behind him here as we would come into the pit lane here for 2 cans of fuel, 4 fresh tires, and I make a few small adjustments on the car here, putting the right side tire pressures down, and then I put the wedge up just a little bit now as you see the rest of the current order on your screen. I could not tell who brought out the caution there, but either way we get ready to take the green flag here, gaining 1 position and moving up to P6. The exact lane we do not want to be in for the restart there as we overtook Elliott on the pit lane. Now as the green flag is back out and we are back underway, Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski lead the way, and we only have a handful of laps to go here. 6 laps remaining in Stage 1. Behind us, you got Kevin Harvick there in that number 4 car in his final season of his Cup Series career, and there's been a common trend in every single season that we've been in the Cup Series so far. Fortunately, we have a clean restart there. Don't hit the wall there. It's very easy to hit the wall on the outside on a restart at Darlington. But as I was mentioning, Kevin Harvick's trend, so every season of the career mode, in our first Cup Series season, Jimmy Johnson made it to the Final Four, won his 8th Cup Series championship, broke a record, and then in the second season, Kurt Busch made it to the Final Four as well in his final season, came up short of a championship, actually DNF'd along with myself, and then last season, Martin Truex Jr.'s final season in the Cup Series, and he went out as a 2-time Cup Series champion. So Kevin Harvick, being the driver retiring this season, looks to continue that trend of drivers in their final seasons making it to the Final Four. I honestly think Kevin Harvick's probably the weakest link of those drivers in the past that have made it to the Final Four, so it'll be interesting to see if he can pull it off or not as we came through now to start the final lap of Stage 1. You can see that really our car didn't take off very well since that restart. Now as we were down in P9 looking up the inside of Elliott, and I was considering the situation here. I decided to give Elliott a break and actually let him hold on to P8 on this final lap because I know that his point situation is nowhere near as good as my point situation. We come into this round well above the cut line. I think it was like 42 points above the cut line, so Elliott nowhere near in good as a position as myself, so I decided to let him hold on to P8 there to just really help out our Hendrick Motorsports teammate get as many points as he can here as we come through to cross the line in P9. Alright boys, definitely not a winning car today, but we'll have to wait and see what happens here. I mean, if we just stick with it at Darlington, I'm sure it'll come to us. It's a unique track, but yeah, definitely need to do some work though. There you hear myself on the radio just mentioning that, you know, we got decent speed in this car, but hands down not winning speed whatsoever currently now. As it's Harrison Burton, by the way, who actually DNF'd from the race. He brought out that first caution, so we already have our first set of playoff implications. Second in the playoff grid, Burton is coming into the first round of the playoffs, and this is going to be a huge hit for him in his first ever playoff run in the Cup Series. Now in a top team as the green flag is out. Stage 2 underway in the Southern 500 as we'll go through into the M segment. Not the restart we were looking for by any means. Now down into P13, as you saw on the exit of turns 2 on the opening lap of stage 2. We knocked down that outside wall, and it's very hard to get a good restart on that outside line because there is just a little bit of a bump in the track, and if you clip that bump, the car just gets knocked out and you go right into the wall, unfortunately. Here as I was up the inside of Ryan Preece, who started in the mid-30s and now has almost worked his way into the top 10, but now I was up the inside of Todd Gilliland. We passed him with no problem. Then we would get up the inside of Denny Hamlin into turns 3 and 4, and we would also go past him. So we would work our way back into the top 10 now as we came through on that lap 4, as the 41 and the 3 of Austin Dillon, they were scrapping it out for the lead here in the second stage as we were now up the inside of the 9. So really just moving our way back forwards here as we go down into turns 3, and we will clear that 9 of Chase Elliott in that Jimmy Johnson 2009 paint scheme throwback. That 2009 Jimmy Johnson Lowe's paint scheme, one of my favorites of all time in NASCAR in general. It was such a beautiful paint scheme. Really was personally never a really huge fan of Jimmy Johnson's Lowe's paint schemes, but that 2009 one was a completely different story. I love that paint scheme so much here as we were now also past Kevin Harvick, run down Kyle Busch, as well as Alex Bowman with 13 laps to go in stage 2 here, and we were just continuing to move our way forwards. I was actually a lot more confident in the car in the second stage compared to stage 1. It just overall felt better, and I felt like that was proving itself here now as we were going down into turns 3, and now we are going to be able to potentially pass that 18 of Kyle Busch, but he's going to fight back there in that second lane. It's very hard to pass on that inside line through turns 3 and 4, and that opened the door wide open for the 21 of Ryan Preece, who's now worked his way into the top 10. I just let him go here because I realized he's got a really fast car, honestly faster than myself here, and he would go to the outside of Kyle Busch now as he came through on lap 16 down the back straightaway. I'm deciding to follow the 21 into turns 3 now, so we still run in the 9th spot, but really nowhere to go. But the caution actually comes out for the second time tonight in the Southern 500, bringing everybody back down to the pit lane. Very easy call, of course, with the 2 cans of fuel as well as 4 fresh tires. I was contemplating maybe making some more changes to the car, but I decided to just keep it at what it was now. As you look at the current running order on your screen, we got drivers like Tyler Reddick down there in the 30s, I think it was, and Eric Almirola not having a good day either, as Harrison Burton still currently the only one to be out of this race. Matt DiBenedetto loses 2 spots on the pit lane there, so he drops down to P5. Last season, I think this was the very race he won at and put himself into that second round of the playoffs. Currently, though, DiBenedetto is get back underway here in Darlington. He is winless so far this season. Last season, he had 2 wins overall. Definitely not the perfect season for him, but he still made the playoffs on points, so we know he's got the speed to be a strong competitor here. Now, as finally we get to restart on this inside line as Cole Custer continues to run up front along with the 3 of Austin Dillon now, as it's only going to be 5 laps to go in stage 2 when we come around one more time to cross the line up the inside of Kyle Busch, and now trying to get to the inside of the 48 of Alex Bowman. Definitely, I think the 48 of Alex Bowman is going to be a strong threat throughout this whole playoffs here. Probably my underdog pick. He's been very fast. Only 2 wins on the season, but at the same time, 2 wins is actually like the second most of anybody here. As we go down into turn 3, we were just about clear that 48. Sure enough, we clear him on the exit of turn 4 and get up the inside of the 20 of of Bell, but couldn't quite hold it there. Now as we came through, though, approaching 2 laps to go, and the stage actually clipped the outside wall as Cole Custer was driving away with the stage victory at this point now as we run in that 7th position, pulling away from drivers like Kyle Busch as well as Alex Bowman, who was starting to fade at the end of stage 2, but the caution comes out again and ends stage 2 a few laps early, so we're going to get P7 here to end it out. So 4 points, cannot complain whatsoever about that, as Austin Dillon right off the bat will be coming into the pit lane, but you see here that a bunch of drivers around us are actually going to be staying out as Cole Custer picks up the stage 2 victory. But I was looking through the order to see if anybody else is coming into the pit lane, but it really looked like everybody else pretty much was staying out other than a select few drivers, so I decided as well to stay out here as we would get ready to go green for the 3rd and final stage, as Austin Dillon will be coming to the pit lane here for some reason and give up his track position. Obviously, it didn't really look like the 3 was the reason for the caution. There was nothing visibly wrong with his car there, no smoke or anything, so it was very weird to see that 3 car to do that now as we were underway, though, for the start of the 3rd and final stage here at Darlington. A very lengthy 3rd and final stage, so if it stays green, we will have a green flag pit stop before this race comes to an end. Now, as we look in the top 3, those 3 throwbacks with the 10, the 21, and the 41, they all look the same to me now, so it was very hard to kind of figure out who was who now as we were getting passed by the 48 of Alex Bowman. But unfortunately, the one track where we really do not want to be on the outside for restarts, we continuously get outside line restarts. I make a mistake out of turn 4 into the side of the 14. I nearly take out the 14 to Chase Briscoe, and now we are also going to get passed by the 4 of Kevin Harvick. Austin Cindric looks to my outside as well, so a little bit of damage on the car now from myself hitting the wall. That was just simply a driver error on my part. It wasn't anything with the car or anything with the track. I just simply drove into the wall now as we're up that inside, though, again of the 4 of Harvick as we try to once again get back in front of him as we go down into turn 3, and sure enough, we clear that 4 car for that 9th position here as we exit turns 4, but a little bit of a wide exit left the door wide open for Austin Cindric in the 33, and all of a sudden with 33 laps to go, the 33 car is going to go by on the inside. So we would have to try and work our way back past that 33 of Cindric as I would look up the inside here on lap 66. But you can see we were definitely losing some ground here at this point, and for some odd reason the car just didn't feel as good as it did in stage 2. It didn't make any adjustments to it, but we were still running down these guys. We came through to lap 69, nice. Now running in P8 behind Kyle Busch's Cole Custer, by the way, continuing to lead the way over Ryan Preece as well as Matt DiBenedetto now as we come through out of turn 2, looking to that left-hand side of Kyle Busch. He does not leave a lot of room at all now as we go down into turns 3, but we tried to take over that 7th position now, but once again very hard to pass here on this inside through turns 3 and out of turns 4, so Kyle has that momentum down this front straightaway now as there's only 23 laps to go, and we will have to be coming into the pit lane pretty shortly here. So I was starting to kind of come up with my idea to maybe short pit or maybe just stay out as long as possible. I do have that habit of trying to short pit here as we get very loose on the exit of turns 2, nearly completing the pass on the 18 of Kyle Busch, but unfortunately it ends up failing. So we come through now a little bit later on lap 71, back up the inside of Kyle Busch into turn 3. This time I sailed it off into the corner, and we move back in front of Kyle Busch now on lap 72 out of turn 2. A big moment again as we exit the corner. We actually go into the inside wall, some contact there, some damage. We hit the outside wall even. Fortunately, there was nobody coming by, so I decide right here, you know what, 5 laps of fuel in the car, we're just going to bring it to the pit lane because this thing was handling so bad on the exit of turn 2, as you just saw an example of that. So we get down to pit speed, we put 4 tires on the car, a can and a half of fuel it was, and then I really didn't make any adjustments because I knew we had a short run to the end, but I did repair the damage that we had on the car. I was a little bit surprised, though, just how this car was driving. It just wasn't driving anywhere near as good as it was earlier in the second stage, so that was definitely concerning to me, but I mean, I didn't really see a need to do too much about it now at this point in the race. So we're to the back of LaJoy. We're going to pass him as we just passed Derek Kraus, as well as Cole Custer had just now come onto the pit lane, so we would cycle out here. Back into the top 10, of course, as Austin Dillon was out front. If you guys remember, at the end of stage 2, Austin Dillon came into the pit lane when everybody stayed out, so Austin Dillon can stay out for really quite a bit of time here, maybe an extra 5-6 laps here, and he would sure enough be that last driver to pit now as we were cycling out, passing the 2 car of Brad Keselowski, but he would come through out of turns 4 on lap 77 and just blow my doors right off. And this is when I realized that either we have a big disadvantage on tires and that was really making the difference, or I was just downright slow at this point now. As Austin Dillon, he was finally into the pit lane, but I could not run down the cars in front of me like Brad Keselowski or Kyle Busch at all, when earlier in this third stage we ran those guys down and we passed them really with not much issue. So that was definitely a concern for me as we were approaching now 10 laps to go. And look on the track map of who was out front. The 21 of Ryan Preece. It was just announced recently that he will be replacing Brad Keselowski in the 2 car who's going over to Stewart-Haas Racing next season. Preece won his first career race in the Cup Series at Martinsville earlier this season, put himself in the playoffs. He had a bit of a rough season after that, though. It was only like 28th in the points or something like that. And now here he is in the first race of the playoffs in a position to potentially win and lock himself into the second round now, as I was trying to run down that 18 of Kyle Busch. Now actually we have some trouble. Joey Logano, a playoff contender, goes crashing through turns 1. He slides down onto the apron as the other cars are going to go by as well. Now he's going to pull back up in front of the 20 and actually up and over it goes Joey Logano. A bit of a backflip right there as a caution would come out here in Darlington as we were going down towards the corner. So a big moment for another playoff driver like Harrison Burton DNF'd earlier in this race as Logano goes up and over here at the Southern 500. So this will set us up for a very late race restart here as you look at the current running order on your screen. So Burton 66 laps down, Todd Gilliland also DNF'd. He is now 38 laps down. Definitely didn't expect to see Joey Logano going up and over in that kind of fashion there as he just pulled back on track in front of the 20 of Bell and he just tried like a NASCAR backflip like Carl Edwards or something now as Ryan Preece though will lead the way back to the green flag along with Cole Custer joining him on the front row. But you look at the lap count, it will only be 4 laps as we are back underway. An opportunity for myself to get back up into the mix here as we've had a really rough stint ever since we had come back out of that pit lane. So the car just hasn't quite been there, but hopefully now that we're back underway with an opportunity to get a good finish out of it, we can actually pull it off now as we come through out of turns 2, heading down this back straightaway. Alex Bowman up there in front of us side by side with Austin Cindric, who just barely missed out on the playoffs by about 5 points as his teammate of Ryan Blaney was able to beat him into that final spot of P16 now as we come through out of turns 4, approaching 3 laps to go. Ryan Preece out front clear and driving away with a potential race victory for the second time this season as we go down into the corner, clearing the 18 of Kyle Busch for P8 now as we would try to run down our teammate of Alex Bowman. I'm going to attack him right here on the exit of turns 2 there, but I got a little bit sideways there, made it a little bit harder, but we're up the inside of him anyways as we go down into turns 3 now, approaching the final 2 laps in the Southern 500. Keselowski up there in the mix in P3 as well as we come through out of turns 4. Bowman uses that momentum on that second line to get back clear of myself down the front straightaway. So we come through to start the final lap now in the Southern 500, and you look up ahead, Ryan Preece a good 2 to 3 car lengths ahead of second place, which now belongs to Brad Keselowski as we continue to run P8 as we exit turn 2 to the back again of the 48 of Alex Bowman, this time to his outside to see if I can replicate what he did against me just a few laps prior as we go down into turns 3 and 4 for the final time. They're nearly into the outside wall, but we actually pulled out there. I just couldn't quite hold it. So we come through out of turns 4. Ryan Preece wins in the Darlington Southern 500. We come through to cross the line there just behind the 48 of Alex Bowman to finish in the 8th position. So Ryan Preece out of nowhere has a ton of speed in that car and wins in Darlington for the second time this season, locking him into the second round of the playoffs. And I'm not gonna lie, he was a driver actually that I had in my own bracket considered to be a first round exit, so I was very surprised to see him pull that off right there, but at the same time very cool nonetheless as Joey Logano down in P38. So 2 playoff drivers finished 38th and 40th. Very rough days for Joey Logano as well as Harrison Burton, and there you see the effect it has. Burton, who was second in the playoffs, now drops to P9, 12 points above the cut line still. Logano 15th, 13 below Ryan Blaney. His teammate is 15 below in that 16th position. So that's one race of the playoffs complete here in the Cup Series. Now as we got the Truck Series playoffs as well underway, and the Xfinity Series now has 1 race to go in the regular season, where Quinn Half is in a must-win situation to get into the playoffs when he's already like P5, P6 in the points. So very unfortunate for him. As always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, you do know what to do. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode. As you see that grid right there, Kyle Larson, William Byron above the cut line, Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, the 4 drivers below the cut line. But before we end this episode, just want to say a quick thank you to the Go One Racing members of MJ, Joseph 9001, RJ, Timothy, Bubba Jr., King Matt XL, Brett Durward, Dark Gengar Gaming, as well as AJ Vasura. As I always say, you guys help me out a lot, and I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one for the second race of the playoffs. Have a great day, everybody.